I'm so thrilled to be on the stage with my friend Jim Gimian, the publisher of Mindful magazine. Um, I thought it was a rather demented idea at first, but he was right and I was wrong, and it's absolutely a yes.
I thought you meant you and I being on stage
No,
together.
no, no. I meant the magazine, like the world needs one more magazine. But actually, the world does needed one more magazine, and this one is just, it's got a life curve of its own, and it is just deepening and widening and broadening not only its reach, but also the people who reach it.
Thank you, John. So I haven't been up here before, so I'll just make it clear I'm the publisher of Mindful Magazine, and we've been doing this for about 5 years. And now I have the great honor of following up John's talk with some specific questions to him about how we make this practical in our everyday life. But I want to do 2 quick things first, following up also on his talk. The first is take a minute to have a little short practice to bring us together again and present in the room. Very simple. You don't have to change anything you're doing, your posture, but take a minute just to feel your bottom, the weight that you're making on the chair, and the bottoms of your feet as they touch the ground. And in bringing your attention to those things, just feel your body and your presence in the room for just a few seconds. Thank you. The other thing that I'd like to do very briefly is to say that Mindful has been in business for about 5 years. We're a nonprofit, mission-oriented. We look like a magazine, we look like a media company, but really our mission is to support the work that people like John and other champions have been doing in the field for a long, long time. And there are many of them here today. Many of you have been doing this in your area, in your realm, in your workplace. And it's been very inspiring, and our joy is we get to tell those stories to other people as they discover all of this for the first time. But when we started 5 years ago, people didn't really believe this was going to be a large-scale mainstream thing. Among other reasons, it's because how can we incorporate yet another thing in our lives? We're so busy and overwhelmed. We realized early on that the only way mindfulness was going to reach that level of penetration was if it became part of a bigger health awareness. And so I just want to call another moment's attention to the work that Doro, Trish, and Therese have done at BB&R Consulting to place mindfulness within the larger optimal health conversation. And for all of you to have the awareness and good sense to come and join in that conversation. Because all of us want to see not only our lives, but the lives of our families and our society and improve. And the key to that is self-care as the leading edge of healthcare. Mindfulness can help activate that, and I just want to salute our conference hosts for having the foresight to do that. Thank you. So, John, you told a story today about when you were 21 and you saw a poster in the hallway, very kind of unexpected thing for you. You went to it not knowing who the people were, and you described the experience as blowing the roof off for you. And in my wandering around talking to people during the lunch break, I encountered a number of people who said that your talk did the same thing for them. But to be fully responsible here, we can't leave them solely in that position. So I'm going to suggest that we take 20 minutes or so before you have to leave to talk about that, how to build that guest house, how to bring these kinds of practices that you talked about in terms of being about our relationship to everything, about not just being about what you want, but beyond what you want and not want. These are some of the things you said. And to explore some ways that maybe in your life and in your teaching, you found it helpful for people to integrate it into your life. And I'll start first by saying, wow, about your relationship to everything, that's a big, big, big world. How do we bring that down to the day-to-day practical, how I can actually do this? Can you say something
So
in that regard?
that was basically describing what awareness does, and it's a kind of deep capacity that we all have. So point number one is you don't need to get anything. You already have what you need. The question is, can you cultivate access, and can we learn how to inhabit it? So this is infinitely practical. It sounds like some kind of philosophy. It's not a philosophy. It's a way of being and a way of seeing and a way of living. So to get right down to it, and that's why I mentioned waking up in the morning. You're already in bed. You don't need to get out of bed to be mindful. You could actually be present in your body before you jump out of bed. So that's something like no more excuses, I don't have time to meditate. Because that's a perfect one. You could actually sandwich it in at the end of the day too. When you get into bed and when you're ready to go to sleep, there's a few sweet breaths, not too intense because you want to, in this case, fall asleep. What mindfulness is really about is falling awake, but at the end of the day, you don't want to fall awake, you want to fall asleep. We have enough problems with insomnia. But again, to sandwich the day in that way would be fabulous. Another thing is to just carve out some real time by the clock to sit. It's not the be-all and end-all of mindfulness practice, but there's something about sitting and affirming that you don't need to fill the time with anything that is unbelievably powerful, as you well know. I mean, Jim's only been practicing for as long as I have. So, this is really something that's not the realm of the lunatic fringe or the, sort of hardcore. This is really doable for all of us, is to just find tiny little ways to feed the being dimension so that it's not all doing.
So I'd like to follow up specifically with 2 points. We hear from lots of people who say, okay, well, if I'm perfect as I am, if I'm naturally mindful, why do I have to meditate? And if I heard you right, you said that it's to create access to that mindfulness that you always are and always have. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to sort of get at, like, who are you really? Really, 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 really. And the story sometimes just gets in the way, and a lot of the time it's just too small. It's not like it might be true, but it's probably only partially true. Sometimes it's really seriously not true. But even if it were, it may not be big enough. So, so that as soon as you know that and keep reminding yourself of that, then all of a sudden you have more degrees of freedom in your life. So another way to do that is to say, because we've been emphasizing moving. So how many of you have a moving meditation that's a part of your everyday life? Anybody have I do yoga virtually every day of my life, okay? And there are all sorts of other doors into that room, Qigong and Tai Chi being fabulous ones, but there's something about mindful Hatha Yoga that is extraordinary. And I think it's like every organ system in the body has its ear to the rail, including your microbiome, by the way. So these are very, very powerful practices that you think, well, then my whole life's going to be taken up with all this time doing yoga, meditating and everything. When am I going to live my life? And so these are lifestyle choices and challenges, just like changing your diet or bringing more, activity into your life or creating more intimacy in relationships, which, by the way, is a huge factor in well-being, is interconnectedness and seeing the deep interconnectedness. And if you live with people can you really be fully with them and like see your children for who they are when you wake up in the morning or when you wake them up in the morning, rather than just live in the head around even them. So that means that in some sense, I mean, all of eating could be mindful if like you're actually aware of what's in your mouth and how it tastes, and also all the energy that's involved in maybe reaching for more before you even finish what's in your mouth, and where does that come from? So there's nothing in life that actually can't collaborate to nurture the being present rather than being on autopilot. And then all of life becomes your meditation practice, and not just those times that you carve out to, say, sit. And by the way, sitting on a chair is absolutely fine. You don't have to sit cross-legged on the floor, although I do recommend it. And I, myself, having been at this now for, 52 plus years, I've taken to putting meditation cushions in various places in my house to help me, like, just remember when I see the cushion, I get on it. And then the real being in the present moment, there's no time. So it's not like you have, well, how long do I have to sit on this stupid cushion? What about just sitting on this stupid cushion for now, outside of time? Then you might benefit from one in-breath, one out-breath, and then you move on your merry way, being more mindful because you stopped and dropped. Things like that.
This is a perfect example of what happens with long periods of practice. He just answered the next set of questions I was going to ask him. And that is just to say that you've covered both the formal sense of practice where you carve out time and you sit, and also the way it can permeate life. And I'd like to just spend a few more minutes on each of those two areas.
Keep showing me. I mean, it's so beautiful. My friend Jessica is on the cover of Mindful Magazine, and I hadn't seen it. So, hi, Jessica.
This is hot off the presses. And
the work that she's doing is absolutely phenomenal. So.
Me actually started in this area, inward bound meditation expeditions, I think it's called. Yeah. So say a little bit more about the formal practice part. You helped, I think, because we're talking about how to start. And starting oftentimes has some obstacles to it. And so you've really given a great suggestion of creating different places in your world where you can just drop in. Yeah. And that can be for a minute or 5, or is there any kind of best prescribed amount of time? You seem to be saying not so, doesn't mean.
Well, it depends on it depends on motivation, okay? And so my motivation in even coming to a conference like this and giving the talk is that something that, just like what happened to me with Kaplow at MIT so many years ago, something, maybe even one phrase or one thing that gets said here resonates with something so deep in you that 50 years from now, you'll still be practicing. That's my motivation, it's got, in terms of full disclosure. Okay, so I couldn't possibly know what that is. And it will be different for every single one of us. But what I most want to convey is that this is not one more thing you have to add to your already overscheduled day or life. Because, like, who's going to do that? But it's really a love affair with the life that's already yours. So you use the phrase formal practice. So formal practice, if you were to come to the stress reduction clinic and sign up for 8 weeks of MBSR, which you don't sell to people, by the way, we don't try to convince them you need to do this, because if they don't have the motivation to begin with, they're going to quit in a week. And we have very, very low dropout rates. Why? Because we talk with people beforehand and make sure that they are ready to dive into this thing that, as I said, looks so much like nothing. It's like, well, and then so you're sitting in a group with 30 or 40 people, and you're asking yourself, why the hell did I do this? And it's like, it's a bunch of lunatics. They're not doing anything. But actually, you're working overtime to reclaim the full dimensionality of who you are, is one way to say it, or the Buddhists might say your true nature. okay? Or the sort of deep question, who am I when it comes right down to it? So in terms of formal practices, if you were signing up for MBSR, you'd have to commit, and we don't kid around, commit to a minimum of 45 minutes a day, 6 days a week of formal practice. And then we don't throw you out there on your own. We give you guided meditation CDs or apps or something so that you are guided by people who are practicing as they're guiding you and somehow or other entrained into a sense of what it means to give yourself over to being. And there are many, many techniques, but the meditation practice is not the techniques. They're like the, as they say proverbially, the finger pointing at the moon. And the idea is not to look at the finger, but to see where the finger is pointing. So then the finger is always pointing towards, remember when I suggested you feel your hands? So how many of you could actually put your mind in your hands? Raise those hands if you, okay. Well, that's a certain kind of intimacy. It changes your brain as soon as you do that. If you go into an EMG scanner, you know, and you've been practicing this for some time, the patterns in the brain, very different. You move from left hand, right hand, also right throughout the whole body. But the core thing is that you're cultivating awareness of anything and everything that arises. So while you're lying on the floor, one of the things that will arise is, I've had enough of this. He's going so slowly. He started out in the toes. I can't even remember the toes of the left foot. It's like, when is this going to come to an end? When will we ever arrive at the top of the head? And you'll notice all of those are just thoughts. They're just thoughts, and they're the emotion of impatience. I don't want things to be the way they really are. I want them to be the way I want them to be. And then you just hold that in awareness without judgment. So I didn't say during my talk, and I guess it's worth saying, my working operational definition of mindfulness is this. It's the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment. And then the hardest part of all, non-judgmentally. Because we've got ideas and opinions about everything, what we like, what we don't like, what we want, what we don't want. So then, but it's not about creating some ideal non-judgmental state. If judging arrives, then recognizing that it's just judging that's arising, and the recognizing factor doesn't get caught in that either.
Okay. I can go along with that in terms of the body scan lying down. But what about when I'm sitting on a cushion on the floor and my back and my knees are killing me? Those are harder to kind of, are those also thoughts? I've got the one up there.
You can, what's that?
I'm watching that one.
You can, oh, nice, thanks for pointing it out. Okay, good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
I mean, pain is real.
Okay, so, and I think you used that, my back and my knee is killing me, okay? So next time your back and your knee is killing you, you can investigate it. That's what this is really about. That's where the rubber meets the road. Is it true? We say that all the time. This is killing me. I can't stand this for another moment. How long is this meditation going to last? Well, wait a minute. Remember, Jon said it's not about how long it's going to last. It's about now. So you could even interrogate, ask yourself, is it killing me right in this moment, or is it the thought that's killing me that that this meditation is going to go on? And it's always that it's, you know, not about the present moment. So you can actually, we work with people with lifetime chronic pain diagnoses who've been in chronic pain that they can't do anything about for 30, 40 years. We teach them to go into their pain. It's the last thing I want to do is go into my pain. I want to escape from my pain. Well, sorry, lots of luck. So you've been that route usually with opioids and, you know, all that stuff. So you enter into it, and all of a sudden you discover, and you can ask yourself interesting questions. Right there, when your knee is killing you, and you're sitting, and nobody's preventing you from getting up. It's not like you're in a group of 30 people and everybody's machoing it out, saying, if they're going to sit, I'm going to sit, you know. Like, it happens sometimes in meditation centers. Like, everybody's so macho about it, like, I'm not going to move. And then there's no awareness. It's just one more ego trip. I'm not going to move. If she's not moving, I'm not moving. I'd rather die first. So that's all some big ego trip. But you could investigate right in this moment, is my knee killing me, or can I experience the sensations in the knee or the back? Can I just hold them in awareness? And then can I ask myself, is this sensation, discomfort, we won't call it pain because that's a thought and it's an inflammatory thought. Is this sensation killing me now in this moment? And the answer is almost always no. And then what you're cultivating is you're cultivating intimacy, a word I use several times, but you're cultivating a deep sense of connection with your own experience. Aversive, by the way, aversive experience. That's really healthy because we have aversive experiences all the time. What if you were to befriend them and not get so caught and imprisoned in them? Then you're learning how to live with pain. You're actually learning the how of living with the unwanted, because there are not a lot of cures in medicine in terms of pain. But the challenge is, can I learn to live with it? And that's true for anxiety. It's not just physical pain. It's true for anxiety. It's true for depression. It's true for virtually anything. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it brings us back to your very definition about how mindfulness is being with what is, as opposed to with what you want.
So paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And that's like not something to cling to. It's actually an invitation to open, because that definition is actually pointing towards an experience of boundlessness. If you start to investigate your own awareness, especially when you've developed it over time, exercised the muscle enough so that, I'm sorry, that you can actually live inside awareness, inhabit awareness to a certain degree. One of the things that you can investigate is, where's the center of my awareness? Where is the center of my awareness? Thank you. Oh, that's sweet. And where's the periphery? Where does it end? And I think you'll find that there's no center and there's no periphery. But it's available to you. We won't say it's yours because it's not so clear who you are, but it is a human thing that is so much more powerful than thinking. When you cultivate access to awareness, and again, access to it because it's already yours, then all of the thinking and the stories and the narrative can be held by this larger capacity. So then you get discernment, clarity, wisdom. Instead of judging, you get discerning. And you get ways of navigating the ups and downs of life that are coming right out from your own native intelligences, plural, through the eyes, ears, nose, all the senses. And that's the practice. That's the practice. I'll say one other thing about informal practice, just for fun. I like to say this a lot. So I talked about lying in bed for a few moments and just, okay, then let's say you get up, you brush your teeth. Are you brushing your teeth with awareness, or you're brushing your teeth just to get through brushing the teeth so that you can, okay? What about taking a shower? If you take a shower, next time you're in the shower, check and see if you're there. You're probably at work already. So that's shower meditation. When you're in the shower, feel the water on the skin, okay? Realize that you're here. Now, it's true, like if you're thinking about work, you may have your whole first meeting of the morning in the shower with you, and in some kind of argument with people who aren't even in the shower. So you be aware of that, and then drop back into the feeling of the water on the skin. And then you just keep that going for the entire day.
The only thing I would add to that, which helped me a lot, was using triggers, things that habitually bring a bad reaction. At a certain point, it was the telephone ringing, because that was another, and sort of converting the extremely negative reaction to taking a moment and changing that reaction as you hear and feel the trigger.
Yeah.
As your last opportunity before you're going to be out of here for your
Well, you
point.
see, I don't even need to be here because, as I said, I mean, Jim's been practicing as long as I have, and everything becomes, your mindfulness teacher. I even wrote a book called Letting Everything Become Your Teacher. Everything. Again, coming back to Sergio Leone, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The unwanted as well as the wanted. Why? Because it's already here. It's like we can't escape from it. So can we turn towards? Teach ourselves to open and to turn towards in just those kinds of ways. Just as an experiment, see what happens. You may find it deeply, deeply empowering, and I want to loop it back again, especially since the beautiful things that you said about our hosts today, that the framework of optimal health is really profound. And it's not like we're selling mindfulness or we're selling meditation or even the magazine. Of course, they're selling the magazine, but it's an instrument of transformation. So I spoke about learning, growing, healing, and transformation. It's a lifetime's adventure. And if you give yourself over to it now, all of the science is pointing towards it being transformative of virtually every aspect of our biology. And then the secondary downstream effects are your diet will change naturally. Your relationship to food and your relationship to movement and your relationship to exercise will all change naturally because you'll be transforming into what you love and maybe just transforming into love. And while it could sound a little woo-woo or corny or whatever, I think that when you actually take your seat with that kind of attitude of open-hearted spaciousness, and the love isn't some acquisitive kind of thing where you're grabbing at something or you want to feel a special way, but you realize that how I'm feeling the specialness is that I'm feeling it all, that I'm breathing it all, that I can think at all, that I can love it all, then you'll never be more whole than you are in this moment, no matter what's wrong with you. You'll never be more whole in this moment. Yes, things might get better, they might get worse, but the heart, the essence of it, is in some sense timeless. And if you think, well, I'll put it off and I'll do it later, I mean, you you'll just be older. You won't necessarily be wiser.
Dear friends, you heard it here for the first time, Jon Kabat-Zinn's new definition of mindfulness, which he embodies. Mindfulness is love. Please join me.
Don't go around saying it.
Please join me in thanking Jon Kabat-Zinn.